2022 Earth Day. It's Earth
Yep.
Day. That's a jumping off point, isn't it?
April 22nd, 2020, the North Platte Kickback comes to you on Earth Day, doing something productive for the earth, sitting, talking with your friends, trying to do something productive. My name is Blaine Guile, for those of you that don't know, and I'm here with Christopher Ruart and Spencer Lawrence, the owner, CEO, and operator of Mile High Fries here out of Wheatland. Spencer, thanks for coming by. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me. This is awesome.
Definitely. So we grew up with Spencer, known him pretty well our whole lives for the most part. Grew up here in Wheatland with us, and now has blossomed into the owner of a food truck that seems to be pretty successful. So you're born in, well, not born in Wheatland, but raised in Wheatland.
Mm-hmm.
What took you in and tried to put you in a path towards food?
I cooked a lot when I was younger. So I, cooking with my mom and my grandma in the kitchen, I just always really enjoyed it. And people would always kind of tell me, food was really good. And so I just kept kind of pursuing it and watching things on like the internet and trying to figure out, kind of hone my skills. And then I went to culinary school and
where was that at?
I went to culinary school up in Sheridan, Wyoming, with Sheridan College up there. And yeah, after culinary school, I kind of worked at a couple restaurants and saw that the food truck industry was getting really big. And so me and my wife put together a plan and just kind of put it to work. And so here we are.
Gotcha. Well, so when you were going to school in Sheridan, were you working at the same time in a restaurant?
Yeah, so we were encouraged our second year to find a job in a restaurant and really work like the opposite shift of what you were doing in your classes. So like your classes were, there was an 8 a.m. to a 2 p.m. and there was a 3 p.m. to a 7 p.m. And whichever one that you were going to, because there were two different, sets of classes, the opposite shift, you'd be encouraged to do a restaurant type job. And so you really get the feel of like what it's like after you get out, where it's like 12, 16-hour shifts. And
makes sense.
Yeah, kind of doing the nitty gritty of it.
So what was your first role in a restaurant?
Well, I got hired on at the Powder Horn up in Sheridan as a kind of like a prep cook. I did a lot of caterings. I helped out with the dishes. I just kind of was like they called it a mole, where I just kind of got sent around and wherever I could help, I'd go.
Did whatever they told you to do.
Yeah, just did whatever I could, and then kind of worked my way up and worked the pantry station with salads and desserts and things like that, and then worked my way into a saute position, and so just kind of worked my way up the ladder.
So the Powder Horn, that sounds like it's a nice place. I've never heard of it, but also haven't really been to Sheridan that much. So
Yeah, plug to the Powder Horn now.
Yeah, a little plug, I guess.
They still in business?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure.
What kind of food is it?
It's like kind of modern American food. It's kind of high end. It's on a golf course.
Oh, the Powder Horn golf course.
Yep.
Shout out Tiger Woods.
What year did you? What year did you graduate?
So I graduated college in 2014. I graduated high school in 2012.
Gotcha. So in 2014, when you got done, what was the first step?
So right after I got done with college, I actually went back to school. I went to like an online portion of UW for marketing and advertising.
Gotcha. So you weren't sure about the whole restaurant industry? Or?
Well, no, it wasn't that I wasn't sure about that. I always knew I wanted to start a business, and like I really wanted to know the ins and outs of that. And so I wanted to get extra education for that for when I started it. But even through all the extra schooling, I still worked at restaurants and other part-time gigs. So
awesome. So I guess the question is, I guess what most people are probably wondering, we all seen this transformation in the food industry of food trucks becoming more and more prominent. They've been around for a long time in big cities like New York and stuff like that, hot dog stands, whatever. But it really didn't sweep across America until, the last however many years. So I guess what's the transition from wanting to be a business owner or run your own restaurant into, hey, we're going to buy this truck and we're going to start slinging food at it?
Well, so right before we decided that we were going to do the food truck, I was living in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I was kind of at a point in my life where I'm like, I don't want to, I really don't want to cook. I don't want to be in the restaurant industry. I kind of want to take, a hiatus, maybe try marketing or advertising and sales and see if I could do something with that. Because, I don't know, the restaurant industry was just really kicking my butt as far as like, there are a lot of scary people in restaurant industries. Like even at really nice restaurants, it's just kind of there's a lot of people that are hard to work with and hard to be around, and it makes it for a really hard atmosphere. And um, so I was just in kind of a really toxic place, and so took a little break and moved down to Fort Collins to kind of get some culture and get out of Wyoming for a couple months. And um, we were at a food truck festival, and there were like 10,000 people on this little parking lot, probably no bigger than what's outside here. Um, 23 food trucks, 10,000 people just
Wow.
swarmed into this little block. And you literally didn't know which line you were getting into. You literally just got in line. And you're like, I hope I end up at food. And so when we saw that, we were like, man, this food truck thing is really kind of popular. And I was like, what could we do that was different than everything else? Because a lot of times when you see food trucks, it's like, burgers and tacos and
hmm
uh, wings, things like that, like really kind of simple things.
Traditional kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we were at like breweries and things like that, when we were kind of going around, we'd see their food menus, and they'd all have these different kind of loaded fries. And so we were kind of thinking one day, we were like, what if we did loaded fries? Just a whole menu dedicated to loaded fries, different specialty items. I think it'd be really cool street food, and I think it would like garner attention because I mean, who doesn't like French fries, right? Like
Right.
it's really hard to not like French fries. So yeah, we just kind of after that one food truck festival, I was kind of like, okay, I think we can do this. I think we can probably get the capital for it. I think we can probably like make it happen realistically. And it really wasn't until I saw another food truck up here that was traveling.
hmm
Um,
On the hook,
yeah, on the hook.
based out of Laramie, Wyoming.
Yeah, based out of Laramie. We saw them kind of traveling around and really killing it. And I was like, well, if you know they can make money traveling to these small towns, like why don't we give it a try? And so that was kind of it. We just kind of set off on our little path, and about 2 years later, had it all up and running.
Nice, nice.
All right. Well, I got some more questions.
Yeah,
for
you're
you.
the one with the questions. I'm just here for the banter.
Here, I'll give you some if you want to look at it.
Sorry, am I giving you guys?
No, this
No,
is perfect.
yeah.
no,
It's perfect.
it's just the fact that we've kind of half-assed had this already.
Yeah.
But no, a couple questions I have, at least blaring in the front of my mind here,
Mhm.
is just the gumption it takes from someone to just go from their day-to-day life to just pick up and start a business and just be passionate about it right away. With the fries, do you think it's more of a passion that you're stuck on the fries in general, or if it's just a big creativity melting pot that, hey, we can take this and we can just run amok with it?
Sure. Yeah. So I definitely think it's not like we want to do fries, forever. Like we love the fries. We're super passionate about it. But we definitely want to venture off eventually into some different, parts of the culinary world. And we thought with the food, our starting food truck, we really wanted to hit it off with a good one. And fries was just something that wasn't being done, but we saw it as a growing item in the US. Like poutine from Canada was
Mm.
really starting to spread across. I was seeing videos all the time about it. I'm like, I got to hit Wyoming before, I want to be the first one to do it. And so it's definitely one of those things where it's like you can be creative in any way. Like you can have dessert fries, you can have like we've done waffle fries, like actual like breakfast waffle fries.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we done like
I was picturing those Chick-fil-A
yeah,
hitters.
no, I mean we've done those too, but like actual like your breakfast, your sweet waffle fry with chocolate sauce, and then we've done a chicken and waffles where it's like a cornbread waffle French fry,
Oh wow.
and then we do a hand breaded chicken tender and stuff like that. So like you can do so much with the word French fries, So that's kind of why we wanted to start with that one first.
Got you. Craig, you got anything?
Yeah. So you've been kind of traveling around Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
How did that start? Was it like, we're gonna do Wheatland and kind of play it by ear, or did you have a plan to go around the state right when you first started?
Yeah, so I always knew I was going to travel, which really, in hindsight, I probably should have researched more into what it would take to travel with a food truck
Mhm.
because, buying an old one right off the bat probably wasn't good. But I always knew I was going to travel around. But I knew when I started, I wanted to start small because, like, I know what happens if you go out to a big town and you're a brand new food truck and people are really excited and it's, 150, 200, 300 people. It gets crazy.
Mhm.
And so I definitely didn't want to start like that because I hadn't had enough time to practice. And so I started in Wheatland. I was doing it like 3 or 4 days a week. I'd start in the Safeway parking lot, and then I'd move over to the Commodore parking lot at night. And
Perfect.
yeah, dude, it was great.
Perfect.
It was awesome.
So
Yeah,
that-
it was really cool.
That kind of played the role of like your soft open.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Okay.
definitely did that. I did that for a couple of weeks, and then week 3, I did 3 days in Wheatland, and then did 1 day in Torrington. I was like, okay, I'm kind of ready to go see what it's about. I'll start in Torrington, another small town. It's pretty close, so I don't have to drive that far. Like, I'm not risking, because at that time I was really like, didn't know how to fix a food truck, didn't know
Mhm.
anything about mechanics,
Yeah, I
and
did
I was
want to ask
having
you about
issues.
that too.
I
Is
was
when you
having
first
issues.
started buying that first truck, what
Yeah.
that was kind of like.
Yeah. So at the beginning, I was having a lot of problems with the food truck. I was having, engine issues. I was having fluid leak issues. I was having all sorts of stuff, and I didn't know how to fix any of that stuff. I was so stupid. Like, didn't know anything about mechanics or how to fix it or how to diagnose it or even know what to look for.
Right. So for, people, I guess, that aren't putting it really together, you're on the side of the road.
Yep.
Who knows what's going on? The truck's not moving.
Yep.
And in
Yep.
Wyoming, everything's an hour away from each other.
Yep.
So how old were you at the time?
I started when I was 22.
So as a 22-year-old that, unless I'm mistaken, has pretty well none mechanical understanding.
Yep.
You're on the side of the road starting your first business,
Mm.
and your business isn't moving.
Mhm.
You're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So to touch on what Blaine has said is, when I bought the first food truck, I haven't bought a second one yet, so I don't know why I phrased it that way. But when I bought my food truck, I went to go sign paperwork. I'd had it inspected. I went to a dealership. I said, "Hey, can you inspect this? I need everything looked over. I need to know what's wrong with it so I can decide whether or not I'm going
Right.
to buy it." So drove the food truck there. I didn't know what I was listening to, but when we got in to ride in it for the first time, it sounded really loud. Like, the engine just sounded like it was like almost like a go-kart, but it was this massive food truck.
Right. Right.
So it was just really loud. And I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, oh, it's really old, so it must be loud. And at this point, I was still thinking I could drive this thing 220 miles, between Montana and Wyoming all the way south. I was totally fine with it. So get it inspected. We go off to lunch. We come back about 2 hours later. I go in. They said everything's fine. I was like, cool. So I go outside and make the deal with him. And then we go over to the title office and get everything switched over, sign the paperwork. 20 miles down the road, my engine seizes. Sign the paperwork, cut the check. Check was cashed like 25 minutes after I was
Of
Oh,
course
yeah,
it was.
he's ready.
Dude,
He's
he was
ready.
he was so ready to have that money. And I definitely got conned. I don't know how they missed it in the inspection, but the reason why my engine seized was my radiator cap had been bent, and so all the fluids were shooting out of it. And I didn't notice, and I wasn't paying attention to my engine temperature. So when I finally heard the loud bang and I started getting the smoke coming out of the sides, I looked down and I'm like, is it supposed to be at 270, 280? And no, it's not. So yeah, I get it. Engine's fixed. Everything's good. We get it back to Wheatland, driving it around. Everything's fine. Still not thinking about fixing the food truck because I'm like, well, I just got a new engine. Like, everything's got to be fine, whatever. About 4 months later, right after I finished my first week of sales, I'm leaving Laramie, Laramie after, I think, second week of sales. My engine seized a second time. So had to get the engine replaced twice.
Coming from Laramie to Wheatland?
Laramie back to Wheatland.
Which, again, in case you don't know the area, is pretty much a dead spot.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
no
traveling
service.
through a pass, and it's just the middle of complete nowhere in a canyon.
Yeah. So when my engine seized the first time, I was absolutely in the middle of nowhere. No phone service, no nothing. Had to walk 2.5 miles to get phone service. The tow guy came to get us, but we had to wait 4 hours before he finally showed up. And when he finally did show up, he pulls in, flips his lights on, backs up to the food truck, gets out, comes over to us, and he's like, well, I'm actually going off shift, so I'll go up to the next town, and I'll call them, and they'll come get you in probably an hour. But he came and drove up to me and talked to me and got out of his tow truck, and the next town was only 2 miles, which is where we wanted to go. So I really don't understand why he didn't just tow me. But we waited 2.5 hours for a tow truck to show up. No one ever did. So we walked 2.5 miles again. My friend and I that were with me at the time walked 2.5 miles to get phone service again to call him, and they were like, no one ever called. So the guy basically just left us there stranded.
Told you someone was coming.
Yeah, told me someone was coming and didn't call him.
Man.
Yeah, and so finally we get back and everything's fine. And then flash forward to the second engine season. Yeah, we were right outside the canyon coming back, so it was basically just a super dead zone.
Couldn't ask for
No.
any two
Dude, yeah,
worse
just the
situations.
worst. Yeah, at least it wasn't that cold out there.
So
yeah.
did you just have to wait for someone to drive by and stop? And
Yeah, so actually, it was weird because one of our people that graduated with us, JC Henyon,
Mhm.
drove by and saw me and helped me out.
Oh,
so,
nice.
Nice.
yeah, ended up making the phone call for me. So,
What a coincidence.
yeah,
yeah, I mean, sometimes it works out
Yeah.
when it's not working out.
yeah, exactly.
Deal.
So what kind of a truck is it?
So it's a 1980 Chevy P30 step van. Used to be an old Frito-Lay truck.
Okay, that makes
Mhm.
a little bit of sense then.
So did you have to like do a bunch of conversions on the inside to,
No, so
to
I
be able
bought
to
it.
prep food?
I bought it used. I bought it with equipment already in the food truck. And I did like modifications to it. Like I had swapped equipment, but when I bought it, it wasn't just an empty truck. It
Mhm.
had like I left the sink, I left the tables, I redid the finish on the tables. I left the fridge that was in there. I left the fryer that was in there.
So yeah, some pretty, I would say, reasonably expensive things that
Mm,
were at least there for you to build off of rather
Mhm.
than just buying an empty truck.
right.
So when do you think you had this transition from early opening on your hitting the bars late at night, which is a damn good decision
Yep.
to sell good food outside the bar when everybody's hammered,
Yep.
into kind of just feeling this demand because from the outsider looking in, it looks like you have some pretty substantial demand all over the place. Places that you may have never been to until you went there to sell some food.
Right. So, yeah, I've had pretty great response as far as going to different bars and breweries and all these different places so far. So, yeah, we've been pretty thankful for it.
So in the initial times you just showed up and posted on social media, hey, this is
Yeah.
where we're at, stop
Yeah.
and it just kind of blossomed because
Yeah.
you let it speak for itself.
Exactly. So, the way we would do it was when we showed up into a town, we'd usually have an advertisement 4 or 5 days ahead of time. We'd blast it on Facebook. We'd use Facebook advertising and put a little bit, a couple bucks on it, and then we post on like classifieds and stuff. Really get the word out there, and just kind of let them know, hey, this is the address, this is the brewery, and see us there from here to here, and yeah, that's all it is, man.
And they've been showing out.
Yeah, dude, showing up and really showing some love for the food truck, man. It's been
Nice.
great.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of times you're sold out. Half the time when I see it,
Yeah.
it says sold out,
Right.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
it's
Mhm.
great. Yep.
Yeah,
it's
it'll
great.
be a post. We'll be at this place at this time, and then 2 hours later we're sold out. And
Yeah, it gets nuts out there for sure. A food truck only, we're not like a restaurant, so we can't obviously carry like thousands and thousands of orders unless we have a really massive food truck. So our food truck holds, anywhere from 200 to 300 orders, and yeah, we pretty much sell it out just about everywhere we go. It's nuts.
Yeah, and especially I guess our listeners are going to be people remotely from this area, but it seems to be a trend here where there's restaurants that are opening all the time and closing down. There's this initial excitement, and for lack of a better way to explain it, you show up for the opening because you're excited and you taste the food and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This will be,
Yeah.
this is going to be gone in 6 months, 8 months. And it is.
Exactly.
There's openings and closings all over the state,
Yep.
but really here in Wheatland, it seemed to be a big trend. So, the whole food truck thing brings so much diversity to it that you kind of don't allow for that to happen. And obviously it's really good food.
Thank you.
So yeah, I guess, do you have any advice for anybody that would be opening to traveling down a similar path?
As far as like the food truck,
Yeah, like anything
traveling food
you
truck?
may wish you would have done differently, or looking back at it, I
Mhm.
should have done this instead of that.
Well, so I don't have any like regrets, definitely, because if I didn't buy a really crappy food truck right off the get go, I definitely wouldn't have learned all the things that I'd learned about how to fix things. So I'm really thankful for that. But I definitely, if like you're starting off, I would advise you to really look at the food truck that you're buying and really make like if you're not in a super tight financial situation and you can make it happen with a brand new food truck, like I would definitely go that route, and then build it out yourself. Don't buy a used food truck where someone else has already been, wrecking the equipment or not doing what they're supposed to be doing, cleaning it properly. Like you're really taking a gamble on it, no matter
Mhm.
what you pay for a used one. If you get it super cheap, like it can still be a really big pain in the ass. So, I would definitely, advise people to really do their research, look at the licensing processes, like no matter where you are, really do some digging on what you need to know for the food truck industry because it's not easy. Like a lot of people go into the food truck industry thinking that it's way easier than owning a restaurant, and to a degree it is because like you don't have to necessarily depend on 40 servers or 15 servers
Mhm.
showing up, and you don't have to keep on top of all that sort of payroll and things like that. Um, depending on whatever food truck you're working. Like if you have a big franchise food truck type thing, then yeah, you've probably got a lot of employees. But with your first food truck, it's just a couple of employees, like really small inventory counts, like really like, so that part is easier, but you still got to run a restaurant. You still got to like make the phone calls. You still got to get purveyors. Like you've still got to uh, make sure the food truck can make it. You've got to make sure all your repairs and things are up to code, and like you got to make sure that all your taxes are in, and it really is the same process with just a little bit of tweaks. So
Mhm.
that's my biggest piece of advice. Just really do your research and do your digging and ask a ton of questions.
Mm.
So
Do you have any mentors in the food truck game?
I don't know. I've had a lot of really good friends, right? I wouldn't say anyone's really a mentor. I wouldn't say I've like necessarily looked up to other food trucks because when I started this, there weren't really a lot of traveling trucks outside of On the Hook. Like, I don't know if
At
I
least
was
here local.
right.
Yeah.
At least that was like traveling around big scope,
Right.
the whole state. I know there's a lot of trucks out there that are like, they kind of keep it in the Tri-County area,
Mhm.
that kind of small thing. So there wasn't really a lot of people because a lot of people were just staying local, and a lot of people were still just kind of opening up for the summer, and then they had a
Oh,
day job
right.
in the
Like
winter.
for example, out at the county fair,
Hmm.
people show up and sell food there,
Right.
but then you never see
But
them
then
again until next
exactly,
county fair.
exactly, so it's hard at that, and it was really difficult because like I didn't really have anyone to ask questions.
Sure.
So that's why I tell people like I've always told people who come up to me and they're like, I really want to start a food truck. My wife is, and I are really excited about it, or my friend and I really want to do it. I'm always like, get after it, like do it now, because waiting is just really,
Yeah. What are you
procrastination.
waiting
What are you
for?
waiting for? And I tell them, I'm like, now is the time because there's just not a lot of us out there doing
Mhm.
it. What are there 4 or 5 that you can really think of that are
Yeah.
really traveling all over the place? And so, yeah, definitely. If you're thinking about doing a food truck, yeah, absolutely do it.
I'm really glad you said that. Excuse me. Because that's something that me and Chris specifically, and as well Brendan, who's the producer of the podcast, that's the same mentality we have, and that's why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Is we know a couple people who are doing it. Are they giving it their all? Are they really dedicated to it? Maybe not, but there's no real voice, for us, stepbrother to the Rust Belt
Yeah.
people. And so I'm glad you said that because that's a big reason as to why we're doing this, and I think that's good advice in general, not just necessarily
Absolutely.
food truck advice.
Yeah.
So I do like that. The question I did want to ask you, just because I remember you telling me the other day about this guy who's your biggest fan, in my opinion, it sounds like, that likes to travel and come find you where you're at.
You're
So,
asking me who it is?
yeah. Or not necessarily his name, but just the
Yes.
explaining exactly his dedication.
I've got a family out of Casper that every time I go to Casper, they're there, like usually first in line. So they've got a daughter who I guess half of her Instagram is pictures of Mile High Fries and like talking about how much she misses Mile High Fries being here and stuff like that. And if I'm within 40 miles of them, and they've even made the trip down to Wheatland, they've made the trip like they were going through to go to Denver or to go catch a flight, and they saw I was in Cheyenne, so they stopped in Cheyenne. Yeah, so yeah, these people were my
If you have
super
her-
fans for sure.
If you have her Instagram handle, we'll give her a shout out.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. Sorry.
But yeah, Craig, do you have any other questions or anything?
Off the top, I mean, I just want to congratulate you, man. I mean,
Thank you.
it's really taken
Mhm.
off.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You had posted a Facebook live video
Mhm.
a couple of days ago talking about you guys are doing a little bit of a hiatus.
Mhm.
Did you want to expand on that anymore?
Yeah, so we're just taking a little bit of a break, catching up on some stuff with the food truck. We had some personal things come up with the family, so we're taking care of that.
Okay.
And
I
yeah,
mean-
just kind of, right now it's just a little bit, if you're not, if I don't know, it's hard to explain, but really it's just not necessarily the best time for a food truck.
Right, right.
now.
The
Definitely.
face-to-face
It's just,
transactions.
yeah, it's
and
just not a good time for the food truck industry right now. I mean,
it's not a
it
good
is-
time for
there-
any industry. but-
I'm not saying there aren't any spots in the world that don't have a good food truck presence right now because like Los Angeles food trucks are killing it. Denver not Denver. Florida food trucks with like curbside and delivery are killing it. Like there's a lot of places where it's working, but I just feel like for a smaller town where people are like really, focused on the small businesses that are like brick and mortar and stuff, it's kind of more on the focus is more on that. So we're just taking this time until the state opens up to really, do some upgrades that we need to get done on the food truck and get kind of ready to go for the rest of the season.
Kind of get a little reload going.
Yeah.
So I know you were talking the other day, probably about a month or so, if not maybe a little bit longer. But have you ever taken any time off like this before, or has this been kind of like hammer to it while we got it?
No, I mean, yeah, when we had the engine, after we started that, just started doing sales, it was about 3-4 weeks that we got. So we were forced to take that time off. We've never taken like this long of, a hiatus before, where we've actually come out and said, okay, we're taking a break. And so, no, we've never done it this long, but.
So I think it's safe to say you probably earned it. Earned it for the most
because
part.
Here's the deal. Like, my thoughts on it is the restaurants are probably going to open back up, right? So, like, when restaurants open back up, they're only going to be allowed to have, half capacity? I mean, they're still going to have to do the social distancing thing. Like, and who knows how long we're going to have to do that. So I still think that even when all this is said and done, even if we open back up in the middle of May, we're probably still going to have issues. Like, restaurants probably still won't open back up for the dining part because you still have to hire staff to like serve the tables, bus tables, wash dishes, like all that good stuff. And if you're only running the restaurant at half capacity, if that, because I mean, people are still going to be scared. However you feel about it, there are still going to be people that are, a little bit interested and intrigued by what's going to happen if they go out, and so they make the choice to not go out. And so I still think we're going to have issues with the whole restaurant industry, the whole service industry, like movie theaters, salons, because people are still going to be sketched out with everything going on. So,
just feel for all the people on their payroll, all the people, that rely on it. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. So, I just feel like right now it's the food truck industry, for us, it was just the best time to kind of call a break and get things ready to go for the summer. So when things do open back up, we're just ready to go and we get to
hit the
ground running and make sure we're at every single one,
Awesome. Yeah. And, mitigate some of the possible exposure for yourself as well to the virus.
Right.
Yeah, that seems like just asking for it, if you were to be open right now, just having people coming through line, handing out food. I mean, that just sounds like a disaster.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's, I was saying it's 100, 200 people that usually show up when we show up somewhere. And it's hard to be outside putting the ruler between people and making sure they're spaced out. Because it's just me and my wife running the truck. There's not 3 of us, there's not 4 of us. So, yeah, it's really hard to regulate that. And we just can't, when we want to make sure our people are safe and staying healthy so that when this is all said and done, we still have customers,
Right.
Absolutely. Shout out your wife.
Yeah, shout out my wife, Carmen Romo, who is my chef on the truck. I used to cook on the food truck, but she does everything now. So all that good food
Safe
is
to say
all
she's
her.
probably a little better.
She kicks my ass in the kitchen up and down for sure.
Yeah, maybe round 2 of this thing, we'll get her in here too.
You do it, yeah.
We'd definitely love to have her.
Absolutely.
Is there anything specifically you want to say to people? I mean, obviously we're going to expect and demand of you that you share this, with your community, obviously on your social media.
Yeah,
so
I'll
is there
do
anything
that.
that you want to say to them specifically? Obviously we could even chop this out and just kind of give it to you
I'll
to
probably have
post
to do
too.
some
So,
chopping, a little bit.
well,
of
I mean,
post
just
work.
so you could post it on behalf of yourself, kind of thing. So,
yeah. So, at Mile High Fries is my handle on Instagram.
and we'll
at
have
Mile
that.
High Fries on Facebook. And yeah, just kind of keep watching for posts on when we're coming back, and we'll be hitting a bunch of towns, around Wyoming and Nebraska here really soon. So,
What's your game plan? You going to start in Wheatland and then?
yeah, I mean, I live here. I live in Wheatland, and so I'll probably do Wheatland 1-2 days a week. Maybe we're gonna want to start doing that again.
The
And
community
then-
will show out.
Yeah, so and then we'll probably do like 3 or 4 days traveling. So something like that when we get back into the summer grind of it.
That sounds good.
Yep.
Can't wait to have some.
Oh man, it's gonna be good. We got some good stuff coming. We're probably gonna keep doing the burgers that we had on the Wheatland menu while we're traveling, and we're gonna be doing some new fries. So it's gonna be awesome.
Nice.
So the last time I got Mile High Fries, and this was a year or so ago, I got the buffalo chicken fries.
Hmm.
What do you got going on now? What's before you took your hiatus? What did the menu look like?
Those are some real heat. by the way.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. So yeah, we before this we were just doing deliveries with burgers. We were doing a couple of different burgers and a couple of different salads, and then we had a cheesecake option, and then we were also running the barbecue pork fries. And
good.
yeah, barbecue pork fries really good. We had a Texas barbecue burger. We had this one called the Chili Riano burger with a poblano chili and a fried egg. That was oh my god, so good, man. So good. Carne asada for sure.
Go open that thing up.
Running in the booth.
Yep.
So yeah, we were doing burgers, Southwest salad, Caesar salad, yeah, just a bunch of good stuff. And then before that, when we were just doing the fries, we would usually run those buffalo chicken fries, barbecue pork fries.
To die for.
Yeah, and then we'd have a couple of specials. So like we'd usually do like a dessert, and then we'd do a third one that was like a special. So we'd have like taco fries, pork and green chili, carne asada,
Mhm.
and we had a rotating menu of specials depending on what we could find. So.
Did you ever venture into a dessert fry?
Yeah, so I mean, we called them fries, but they were really stuffed egg rolls. We just didn't want to call them egg rolls. We wanted to call them fries. But we had like a cream cheese stuffed egg roll with salted caramel. We had an apple pie, like we rolled them out super thin so they looked like French fries in pie dough. And we did apple pie fries with like a creme anglace and cinnamon sugar.
Unbelievable.
We've done a s'mores fry with sweet potatoes and marshmallows and chocolate sauce.
With sweet potatoes.
Dude,
that's
seriously, it's so good, man. You wouldn't think about it that way, but
right.
yeah, it's really good. Little salt tossed in it with a little bit of chocolate, marshmallows. It's good, man.
Dang.
It's good.
Deal. Well, anybody got anything else?
I'm good. I think it went really well for our first interview.
Yeah,
Thanks for playing along with us
of course, guys.
Really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
inviting
Yeah,
me.
we definitely had a mutual understanding between me, Chris, and Brendan, obviously. Just that this is kind of the epitome of what we want to accomplish. We want to talk to local people that are relatable, that have taken a unique path, blossomed through it, and just continue to hustle and stuff. And so we kind of want to open that up to everybody because obviously people know you, they know your name, but they don't necessarily know how this all came about and all the nonsense that comes with it. So really appreciate you being on here because you really are kind of the epitome of who we want to talk to.
Oh, thank you, man. So you guys will have me back.
Yeah, you're a
Love
Wheatland
to.
success story.
You and
man.
your
We
wife.
got to.
Love
Hey,
to.
cool, sweet.
Cool. Well, this has been a good experience. I don't know how long we ran, but this is
Yeah, it's
the
been
North Platte Kickback. I want to thank Spencer Lawrence at Mile High Fries. We'll have that down below or somewhere so you can click on it. Chris, you got anything?
Just thanks for coming by, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to do this again soon. This is a warm up, so definitely want to do it again soon.
Absolutely.
Deal.
All right.
All right. And that's
Goodbye, everybody. That went pretty well.
Yeah, I think so.